Fans on their feet here in Washington, trying to urge on this defense. 4th and goal at the 6. Heineke in a shotgun set. Giants lead by 8. Gibson to his right, he takes the snap, he's back to throw, he's under pressure, he backs away from pressure, still looking, now rolls left, throws into the end zone, and it's knocked away incomplete. Darnay Holmes knocked it away! And the Giant fans rejoice here at FedEx Field as they hold on. The Giants with a huge victory in Landover, Maryland on Sunday night as they defeat Washington, as the Giants pick up their 8th win of the season. As we welcome you to another edition of the Coach Daboll Show presented by Stop & Shop. I'm Bob Popple. We got a big show lined up for you. The Giants will be in Minnesota on Christmas Eve to take on the Vikings, who clinched their division last week with a victory over the Indianapolis Colts. Plus, we're going to break down this game. Carl Banks goes to the coach's tape. We've got over-under and so much more. I'd like to welcome in my co-host, as always, 2-time Super Bowl champion Carl Banks and the head coach of the Giants, Brian Daboll. And Carl, I know anytime the Giants are in Washington and they leave with a win, it brings back some great memories for you.
Oh, it does, and it just pains them down in Washington to lose at home to the Giants. And it was a meaningful game. So I'm congratulating you, Coach, and your team. The great job you guys did. It's bigger. You'll realize how big those wins are in Washington get as you play them more.
Yeah, very thankful for the outcome of that game. The guys competed hard for 60 minutes, went all the way down to the end, and it was a good one to get.
Coach, weather obviously played a factor. They were controlling the ball early, but you guys make a couple plays on defense, and going in that direction to the left of your bench in pregame warmups, it was tough kicking that way, and you wound up forcing a punt. Talk about your defense kind of standing up there.
Yeah, I think they do a good job. We gave up some yards rushing. They moved the ball some, but I think Wink and the defensive staff have a really good plan once they kind of cross that 50 of holding them, and they've done it quite some time, in many games this year. So anytime you can make that happen, that's huge.
How much did that factor, too, into your decision on 4th and 9 to go for it? Normally you're in Graham-Gano range, but again, weather plays a factor. Even though the ribbons weren't blowing on the goalposts, It was very deceiving.
Yeah, no, it was. And, you talked to Graham before the game and during the game and kind of had a feel for where his line was. We knew kind of going into the game, where we might go for it, kind of no man's land as we call it. So, we got to that point and instead of electing a long field goal, went for it there on 4th and 9, which was, the weather and going that direction, it definitely had part of the decision-making process.
And you could tell just the way that you were calling the game, both ends going either way, but you could tell some of the shorter passes were going into that area where you were just trying to get the ball and not try to put too much air under it.
Yeah, no, it really was more of an extension of the running game.
Yeah.
Kafka did a really good job of mixing those things in. I think it helped the line, it helped the quarterback. We kept the drives going. We had that long 18-play drive going in that direction. So it was well executed. And again, you can try to get in 26 hands a variety of ways. I'd say we gave him a bunch of swings and he did some good work in space. And then we hit some good 3-step slants and quick outs and things like that helped.
Talk a little bit about Kayvon Thibodeaux, because he gave you guys the spark. And I was thinking back as the play happened to the one at MetLife Stadium when he sacked Heineke in overtime at the 1-yard line. This time he adds the LT chop to it, creates the turnover, and then he completes the hat trick.
Yeah, I think that's a nice job by Drew Wilkins of going through the tape and showing him maybe just a tad bit what we could have done differently. We had a chance there the first game, backed up. It was basically the same situation, and he does a great job on the rush, gets the turnover, and then finishes it with a scoop and score.
The question is, are you going to start incorporating that little barrel roll that he had? He just chopped, rolled, got up, and got it.
Yeah.
Is that going to be part of training camp?
I think we need to do that, no doubt about it.
Coach, your offensive line, when you needed to run the ball, all of a sudden it seems like there was a determination of, okay, you've stopped us all game, but here we go. And it was 15, 13, 12 yards. What was the change in mentality? Was there a conversation on the sideline, hey, let's just try to put this away? Or?
Well, yeah, I think those guys take a lot of pride in that, and I'd also give a lot of credit to 26. He wanted the ball in that time, and we were going to give it to him. And I thought he hit the holes with, really good speed, tempo. He got through the first level and made some guys miss on the second and third level. But we had a hat for hat. We got some movement, and he made some really good plays for us down the stretch.
Coach, another thing, these things that happen in real time. You challenge the sack on Heineke that turns out to be a fumble. They're in the red zone, takes points off the board. Just talk about the mechanics of how that happens and the information you're getting.
Sure. Well, again, that's part of my job, is to make sure that we're good on all those things. And we have two guys up in the box, and I mentioned it after the game with Ty and Cade, who have really done a good job all year. We meet a lot on Wednesdays, on Thursdays, a little bit on Fridays, when we go through the management of the game, challengeable situations. We watch tons of tape from around the league that they put together. Cade addresses the team on certain things. So anytime there's something like that comes up, I have my own private line where I can just hear them, and if they think that there's a reason to challenge it and throw it, they're on it quick, which they need to be as soon as they see the replay. And I'm really taking the instruction of those guys upstairs. They're my eyes. They have the television screen. Unless it's right in front of your face, I think those decisions, you have to make them quick and usually in split seconds. And they've done a good job with it all year.
Yeah, I don't think fans and media understand sometimes the worst view of the game is on the sideline.
No question.
Especially when you had the one on the other sideline where they ruled the guy out of bounds, Logan Thomas, but clearly he was inbounds. That was a key point.
And those are a couple other plays, whether that was the Logan play or Heineke's play, is they're upstairs and they're saying, grab the side judge, Dabes, grab the side judge. Tell them to look at this, and I'm going down, and they were all over it. They had both of them correct upstairs, and I'm trying to get them to go ahead and look at it, underneath the 2-minute deal. And again, those guys are very valuable pieces to our organization. They've done a good job for me all year.
All right, well, the Giants get the win against Washington. Now it's on to Minnesota. We have building blocks and a whole lot more. You're watching the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Stop and Shop.
Welcome back to the Coach Daboll Show. Time for building blocks, Coach, and we're going to all get smarter. So take us through a few of the key components to this victory.
Sure. Well, we'll start out here on the offensive side of the ball. We're, 5:53 here, and the plan going out this series was really to give the ball to Saquon and let our line come off the ball and try to make some yards rushing the football while also using some clock, which I thought we did a good job of. We got it down there at the end of that series right there, and Graham hit a long field goal for us. So it was a good drive. I thought there was a lot of good plays, but I think this is, the 1st and 10 play here. We're in a shotgun set, a 2-by-2 formation, and they're in their split safety. So, good numbers here to run the ball. And, it's more of a downhill run where we're getting basically 2 double teams on these 2 interior defensive tackles up to the second level linebackers. And I think they do a good job. Evan goes here and gets Payne. We the backer out. There's good movement right here with Feliciano and Bredesen. Felice comes off to the next linebacker, and really what you like here about 26 is the explosiveness. He hits it. There's not a lot of stutter stepping, and he's through the line of scrimmage right now, so they can't come off and make a play, and now he's into the second level. And, he did a really good job, I'd say 3 or 4 plays right in a row of getting through the line of scrimmage and then also making another defender miss and carrying him for another 4 or 5 yards. Really good start.
Now, Coach, if we look at this from the end zone.
Sure.
The anticipation, you got a double team here on the left side.
Yep.
But you got your guard coming off to the linebacker, but Saquon's trust
Exactly right.
that's going to be there because he's through the hole as soon as your guard comes off. He sees exactly where it's going to be, and no hesitation whatsoever. Like you said, he's not pitter-pattering around. He's like, okay, my guy's going to get him, and he splits it right there.
That's right, and he's trusting this block between Bredesen and Feliciano. Again, it's a good fit by 68 and 76, and really 64 and 73. We got the defensive lineman covered up, and we want to take these guys, up to that next level linebacker. And 26 has just got to continue to trust it and press it, which there's the hole right there. And these holes don't stay open very long in this league. So his power, his explosiveness, the defensive tackle tries to shed and he runs through that one and then gets to the second level. It was a good start. Okay, so this next one is 2nd and 18, and it's almost, you go back a couple weeks ago and you see Kayvon rush and hit Heineke, down here on the 2-yard line, and just doesn't quite get his right hand around to strip the ball out. In this case, makes the most of his opportunity. Everything's tied together, so we play a split safety defense. And it looks like Heineke's here in a progression read where he's starting up top and on this 2 stack receivers and working it back across the ball. But, Wink calls a split safety defense with McLeod trapping this right here on the out. And I'd say, both Jelly and Leo do a good job of just trying to press the offensive lineman back, not really picking a side back here to maintain, their rush lane. So if he decides to move, we got an opportunity to get him back here as well. Good rush here by Kayvon. Kind of a long arm with the other arm, if you will. Little dip at the top, gets thin, and then does a great job of getting that right hand behind the back of the quarterback to strip it out. Not running by the quarterback over here on this side, and it's all tied in together. Pretty athletic move too here. Thibodeaux does a spin, gets right back up, scoops it, and really a momentum changer for us in the early part of the game.
You could tell each game he's getting better and better.
No doubt.
Getting a feel for how to play the game.
Absolutely. I think all those fundamentals that he's working on are really carrying over in the game, and that's what you like to see. Great hand usage, strong, gets him off balance, excellent on the strip, but really, again, power push right here just to maintain our lane discipline. Aziz not running by the quarterback. The coverage tied in with the split safety. Doesn't really have much to go to, and it's all tied together. It's good 11-man defensive football.
Yeah, and that's quite a way to finish it there.
Absolutely. And then this last play here, we're backed up. Would like to get a first down like we did on that other drive, but, we don't. So we have to punt. At least we got it out to the 6 from the 1. And I thought Jamie punted really well all game. This was another good example of him with a great hang-the-distance punt. And now it's, 2-on-1 right here on our gunners. And that's where really the punt team starts, is with your gunners. So we do a good job of protecting. They're kind of holed up, getting a return. And McLeod and Marcus do a great job of getting down the field. It's an excellent punt, beating their 2 guys. It's 2-on-1, and they both got them beat. Collapsing on the returner, attacking the near hip, making an excellent tackle. And then here comes Cam, and this was close, of really finishing him off. The ball comes out. They had ruled us down with his knee, but again, this is good to see when you're on the punt team and you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys sitting there on the ball.
And that's important too, Coach, because in a game like this, right, it's back and forth, and field position's very important.
Huge.
You're kicking from your end zone, so they're going to get the ball with decent field position to start, so you really want to not yield any extra yardage.
No doubt about it. So, again, it starts with the specialists when you're talking about special teams. The punter and the kicker, the snapper, the holder, they all have to do their job, which they played well yesterday, those specialists. And, again, this was a huge play for us. We're backed up. The expected points for Washington is pretty high in terms of getting the ball back. Our defense did a good job on the next series, held them to a field goal, and this is really good to see right here. It's a good kick. The coverage is tied in. Great tackle by Marcus, who's a receiver, and then a good finish by Cam where the ball pops, and, we're close. We are close.
Well, that's good stuff, Coach, and we're all smarter as a result of it. We'll be back with more of the Coach Daboll Show.
In the 2000 season, New York and Minnesota would face off in the NFC Championship game at Giants Stadium.
This is the scene. This is where it's all at. The winner of this goes to the Super Bowl. The loser goes home.
Collins back, steps up over the middle, and he's got a man. It's Hilliard to the 5, touchdown! 46 yards down the left side. I want to be like Ike. He's got 6.
Quarterback Kerry Collins would have a game for the ages, tearing apart the Minnesota secondary.
Collins throwing down the right sideline. He's got Camilla. Touchdown!
Collins' 5 touchdown passes in a playoff game still stands as a Giants record.
Lobs it back corner of the end zone for Toomer. He's got a touchdown! The Vikings on the near side glancing up at the scoreboard. A big shot. The final score, the Giants 41, the Vikings nothing. Super Bowl, here we come.
Welcome back to the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Stop and Shop. One of the biggest wins in Giants history and the best win in Giants Stadium history, the 2000 NFC Championship game win against the Vikings. It's time for this week's edition of Head to Head. Here's Paul Dottino and Sean O'Hara.
All right, so now it's time to go head-to-head for the Giants and the Vikings game on Saturday. Sean, let's see who we've got first. Leonard Williams against Vikings offensive lineman Ed Ingram. Now, Leonard's tied for third on the Giants with 10 quarterback hits, and you'll recall he's had 2 huge fourth-quarter fumble recoveries, not just against Washington last week, but earlier in the season when he sealed the deal against Baltimore. Ingram, second-round pick out of LSU. He has allowed a league-high 9 sacks so far this year, but the Giants know his game is all about power.
I think experience does matter, especially in the league. But at the same time, I still watch film on a guy the same way, regardless of what year he is. You know what I mean? Because if I go into a game underestimating my opponent, that would be bad. And, I just try to pick up on as much tendencies and stuff like that as possible. But, knowing that he's a rookie, there's definitely some things that I could use in my advantage being a vet,
And quickly, from what I see about him, he's more of a power player than it is anything else. Do you see the same?
Yeah, I think he's a pretty good power player. He has some long arms and is pretty decent in the run game. I'm going to try to have to find ways to exploit him in the pass rush and other ways in the run game as well.
I know Leonard Williams got to be licking his chops right now as he watches film on Ed Ingram. You mentioned it, league-leading 9 sacks. For Leonard Williams, he does such a great job with his hands, and that's one of the reasons why he's able to capitalize on not only dominating the line of scrimmage in the run game, but escaping these blockers in the pass game. He's got a great push-pull. Now, the thing that I'm looking forward to with Leonard Williams is if you want to slow down Dalvin Cook in this outside zone running game, you've got to control the guards. So that's Leonard's biggest challenge. Listen, I think Ed Ingram has had an up-and-down season, but he's played his best football the last couple of weeks. Just 1 sack in the last 4 games. Now, when you look at where he has been vulnerable, it's been that inside move. So for Leonard, he's going to try to bait him into thinking that he's beating him to the outside on pass rushes. On 3rd and 9, he's going to try to beat him with that speed rush, and then he's going to counter with the inside move. So that will be a little cat and mouse game on 3rd down. But really where I think Leonard is focusing, Paul, is 1st and 2nd down, trying to slow down this run game, get them into 3rd and long.
And of course, the Giants with their 41% blitz percentage, highest in the league, they might send guys in that A-gap too to help out Williams just a little bit. All right, we go to the next head-to-head matchup. Daniel Bellinger against veteran safety Harrison Smith. Now, Bellinger, with his 25 receptions, that is 3rd amongst rookie tight ends this year. 19 were picked in the draft, so that's a pretty good number for him. And, of course, he's coming back off of that eye injury. Last week only missed 1 snap. Smith, 6-time Pro Bowler, tied for 3rd in the NFL with 5 interceptions. He has been a ball hawk. The Giants know they need to be wary of him.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a great player. So we have to watch him all the time. We have to key him for a lot of different things. And specifically for the tight ends, we have to watch him on start pressure and safety pressures and just make sure we know where he's at.
It's been great to see Daniel Bellinger back out on the field, not just from the player production standpoint, but as a receiver, but what he does in the run game, Paul. And I think he's been such a great on-the-move blocker for the Giants. He allows them to do a lot of different things in both their run game and the play-action passing game. I think for Daniel, one of the keys really is going to be when he breaks that huddle, find out where Harrison Smith is, because not just in one-on-one coverage or man coverage does he have me, but he is going to dictate what kind of coverage you have. Harrison Smith loves to play cat and mouse with the quarterback. He loves to be deep and then on the snap come up much shallower, or start off closer to the line of scrimmage, showing one type of coverage, and on the snap he rotates back to the other. So, this is going to be an interesting to just see what kind of concepts they're using and how Harrison Smith can kind of show that hand before the ball is snapped. So Daniel Jones is going to be watching him. For Bellinger, Look, I don't think Bellinger is going to be one of those guys that runs by Harrison Smith. Harrison Smith is very athletic. You mentioned it. He's a 6-time Pro Bowler. He's seen a lot of football. So you're not going to really beat him mentally and with speed. I think really Bellinger's got to be physical with him. Harrison Smith has given up 2 touchdowns this season. One of them to DeAndre Hopkins in the red zone, and another one was on a weird deep ball where a referee ran into one of the defenders against the Commanders and ended up being a touchdown. So he's still playing at a very high level.
Yeah, it's talking about touchdowns, though. He can also take them the other way. He's got 4 pick sixes in his 11 NFL seasons, including one against the Giants back in 2015. Ran one back 35
We've
yards
eliminated that from our
for
memory.
a score. I don't blame you. It was cold that night, too. That'll do it for head-to-head this week. Let's go back to Bob.
Carl, obviously the tight end for the Giants is an important part of what they do offensively, and Harrison Smith is a Pro Bowler and an All-Pro, so the Giants are going to have their work cut out from to not let him disrupt the game.
Yeah, well, listen, you've got to occupy Harrison Smith, and if it's with a tight end or if it's giving them 2 different looks, but you've got to be able to occupy him.
We're going to take a timeout. When we come back, over-under with Madeline Burke here on the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Stop and Shop. Welcome back to the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Stop and Shop. On Christmas Eve, it's the Giants and Vikings in Minnesota. Time for this week's edition of Over Under as we send it to Madeline Burke.
All right, it's time for a little Week 16 game time. We're in the holiday season. We got a Christmas Eve game at Minnesota. A little over-under to start this one off, guys. You know the rules. Sean, I'm going to start with you here. Over-under 47.5 combined points between the Giants and Vikings.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot when you say that, but I'm going to take the over on this, Madeline. You look at the Vikings defense. They have been extremely porous. Gave up 34 points against the Detroit Lions 2 weeks ago, 70 points in the last 2 games. So I think this is a great opportunity for the Giants offense, who's coming off a big win. They've got some rhythm. Now they're finding ways to punch the ball in the red zone, find a way to maybe get 30 points in this game.
I know we're talking offensively, but I look at the Giants' defense and what they did last week to the Commanders and holding them to 12 points. Look, this is a Giants defense that has been up and down during the year, but I think they're hitting a stride right now. I think they're going to do a good job in limiting the possessions of the Vikings this upcoming week. And then also probably scoring some points, but they're only averaging 20 points a game, so I got to go under on this one.
I'm going to agree with you and take the under as well, just because of averages right there. Neither team is averaging more than half of that, and I think that if this is going to be a Giants win, we're going to see a lot of defense. I don't think that this will be the 30-burger just yet, but hey, prove me wrong out there, New York Football Giants. All right, JC, over under 3.5 sacks by this Giants defense.
By the Giants defense, look, collectively, both teams possibly over 3.5, but the Giants defense, I don't think so. Look, they're only averaging 2.3 sacks a game. Minnesota's no better. I think they're at 2.4 sacks a game. I don't think they're going to be able to do it. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, maybe even run the ball a lot more than pass the ball for both teams, so I got to go under.
I'm going to be optimistic here. I'm going to take the over. It's the holiday season. I think Kirk Cousins is going to be very charitable with the sacks right now. He's already been sacked 40 times this season, so I think Leonard Williams, Dexter Lawrence, I think they both could have a sack. And then, listen, Wink's going to bring some pressure. So one of our corners, one of our safeties, one of our linebackers is going to have a sack as well, so I'll take the over.
I'm taking the over as well, agreeing with you on that. Last week, the Giants had 3 sacks against the Commanders. This week, as you mentioned, Sean, going against an offensive line in the Vikings that in the interior has had their struggles. Dexter Lawrence is leading the team and a career-high 6.5 sacks on the season. I expect we will see the Sexy Dexy sack dance at least once
there it is.
On Saturday.
You're begging for it.
In Minnesota.
Love that dance.
It's been too long. It's been too long. All right, Sean, over under 2.5 field goals of 50 or more yards from Graham Gano on Saturday.
I'm going to take the under on this one because I don't think the Giants are going to need that. They certainly did against Washington, but yeah, we don't want Graham Gano having to kick 50 plus. That means that we're basically, our drives are being stifled way too far from the end zone. So I'll take the under right there. I'm fine with them having 4 field goals, but I want them chip shots.
Yeah, and I would like to either convert that fourth down and go for it on fourth down, or put yourself in a position where you punt and get the team backed up. So I'm going to go under as well, and let's get touchdowns instead of field goals this game.
Absolutely. I'm going to agree with you on the under, not because it's not possible, because of course this will be an indoor game in Minnesota in the Dome. Graham Gano, he's money from that distance, but I do think the Giants offense has been churning a little bit better lately. I think that they'll be getting much closer, if not punching it in with a touchdown instead of a field goal. All right, finally, JC, over under 135 all-purpose yards from Saquon Barkley.
I want to go over here. Look, Saquon has been having an up and down season. Last game was kind of like what we expected out of him the entire year. So I want him to go over. They're getting him the ball in different ways, and I want to see that happening a little bit more. So I go up, and over that number for sure.
Yeah, I'm going to take the over on this as well. I think Saquon talked about it leading up to the game last week, how he felt like he needed to make more big plays, splash plays. I think he's got a couple of those in him. And it only takes one big one to boost those numbers right there. We've seen him a lot as a decoy as well. So his significance is indirectly related to his production. But I think for Saquon, they're going to find a way to get him open in some screens.
Overs across the board. I'm taking the over as well because as we've seen this season, as Saquon goes, the Giants go. All right, that's a wrap for over, under. Let's send it over to Bob and Carl in the field house.
Carl, obviously, as we talked about earlier, with the game on the line, the Giants ran the ball against Washington when Washington knew the Giants wanted to run the ball. Minnesota's not nearly as good up front against the run. It's important to be able to run the football to not allow their explosive offense to be on the field.
Well, yeah, I think time of possession, Bob, is one thing, but having production from your run game, this is something that the Giants desperately need to get on track. They got it going in Washington. Let's see if they can continue it because running the football is part of the overall rhythm of this offense.
We'll get into it a little bit more in the X's and O's when we come back on the program. Carl Banks goes to the coach's tape with strategy here on the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Stop and Shop. We're back here on the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Stop and Shop. Time to go to the coach's tape with strategy and Carl Banks. And Carl, obviously Minnesota offensively can hit you in a lot of different ways. And right now, one of the premier wide receivers in the National Football League is Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, Bob. And the thing about Justin Jefferson is that we see the spectacular catches, but it's the routine plays or the plays that he makes look routine that turn into big gainers and productive plays. Here he is in the slot. Now, you're going to look at this and say, oh, it's nothing, it's just a simple out route. But what he does, he's got a defender here that's got to watch him, and he just creates a little hesitation and then just takes it to the outside, which is a little underrated. You see him, he's just kind of threatening here just to get all the way back out here once the other receiver clears. And then he catches the ball and still has to go 10 yards to get the first down.
Yeah, and he winds up, picking up a 16-yard gain on that play just because of the route running and then the speed that he has. We're going to watch him again in action against the Lions.
Yeah, here he is again, Bob. Now, again, he's running a crossing route, but he's on man coverage press right here. He's got press coverage on him right here, and he's a physical route runner. You can see he's pushing and he's fighting, but that's good coverage, but a better route and better throw. I mean, he's being denied the inside route. Now, this defender wants to take this away. He does a decent job of not taking it away, but he reroutes him and makes him a little bit more shallow. But Jefferson just keeps working back to get to his spot, makes a contested catch.
Yeah, that's a heck of a throw by Kirk Cousins and pretty good coverage. Now, Minnesota is a dual-threat team. Not only do they have Jefferson, Thielen, and Osborne, but they have a guy that's been a top back in the NFL for a long time in Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, and Dalvin Cook he's not underrated. I don't think you can rate him high enough because he does so many things, the explosiveness, but just look at how this play is set up. They're going to run to the two receiver side. Now, most people think, well, that's the soft side of a defense, but he gets out there in a hurry, and the defense is kind of shifted and shaded that way. So they should have this blocked off, but just watch what happens. Ball is snapped. Now they're literally running to a one receiver side. You got two guys running this way, a safety looking this way. So you literally got one guy to stop this guy, and watch what happens. I mean, he's out of there. Now let's just take a look at him again as a receiver. Now, again, alarms should go off. You got two receivers here and the running back here. If this running back does not go back into the backfield, he's going to somehow be involved in the play. They never use him as a decoy. So what happens? They need a game winner. This is literally at the end of the game. He takes one jab step. He's here. You only got one defender coming here because this guy's going to be blocked. and watch what happens when he gets it. Good vision, finds himself in the middle of the field, breaks a tackle, and just second effort to get into the end zone to win the game.
So, on the other side of the ball, the Vikings statistically, defensively have not been very good this year. But one of the things they can do, Carl, is generate pressure up front.
They can, and you say they haven't been good, but they've got good players. And if you don't account for them, especially Smith, he can hurt you. Here it is on this side of your screen. Here is where the action's going to be. And and the Giants will see this often. There's always going to be some type of pressure on this interior three. They're going to generate some type of pass rush, whether it's one-on-one or a game. The Giants will see this until the end of the season. And here it is here, a simple twist. Come back underneath, never comes back on the guy coming around.
So the eyes have to be scanning,
Yep.
don't they? They got to, even though you're engaged, you got to make sure that someone's not coming in. We're going to take another look at some more pressure packages.
Yeah, another pressure package here, Bob. This is just good effort. Again, pressuring on the inside, the interior of the Giants' offensive line is where they're going to see it. Here, the Giants will hold up. Here, they'll hold up. But here is where teams say they're going to pressure the Giants, and this is where they get some good push here on the guard, comes right through, makes a sack.
So that's some of the problems that the Minnesota Vikings are going to give the Giants on Christmas Eve when they square off in Minneapolis. Strategy with Carl Banks is brought to you by PSE&G, providing safe, reliable energy now and in the future. When we come back, another installment of Above the Numbers here on the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Stop & Shop. In Week 16 of Big Blue's historic 2011 season, the Giants and Jets would square off in a Christmas Eve showdown at MetLife Stadium with hometown bragging rights at stake. Needing a win to keep their playoff hopes alive, the G-Men trailed the Jets at the end of the first half and were backed up at their own end zone.
Manning throws one to the right, completes it to the right for a first down, and running out of a tackle down the right sideline is Victor Cruz. Chased by Smith, hurdles over him, to the 30, to the 20, to the 10, to the 5, touchdown Giants, 99 yards!
Cruz's heroics gave the Giants the momentum they needed, and Ahmad Bradshaw would deliver a knockout punch.
Bradshaw's on the 10, to the goal line, touchdown Giants!
And one of the Jets he ran through is still on the ground. Wow.
Boom, Rodney Poole got knocked over.
Game over. That's a closer.
The Giants have won their 5th in a row against the Jets.
It was certainly a Christmas Eve to remember as the Giants beat the Jets as the road team and propelled them to Super Bowl 46. As we welcome you back to the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Stop & Shop. It's the Giants in Minnesota against the Vikings on Christmas Eve. It's time for Above the Numbers with Paul Dottino and Jonathan Casillas.
So let's go above the numbers for the Giants and the Minnesota Vikings game coming up on Saturday. Jonathan, who do you have first?
First guy I have is Richie James. He balled out last week with a huge 4-for-9 catch that kind of propelled the Giants to this win right before halftime. Look, he started out the season hot. 10 catches, 110 yards, and then he had a lull in the middle of the season, losing 2 fumbles in that Seattle Seahawks game. Not a good showing for him.
As a returner.
Now he's bounced back with 11 catches in his last 2 games for 103 yards. And we're looking to take advantage of this Minnesota Vikings defense, which is 28th overall, 32nd in points, and 31st against pass defense. And they're giving up 11 yards per play against the pass. So I'm looking for Richie to be above the numbers this week.
Yeah, that's not a bad pick at all. In fact, James has caught a touchdown pass in 3 of his last 5 games, Jonathan.
Including Dallas.
I will say, though, he's only averaging 3 yards after the catch, and that's where they really need him to go above the numbers. You know, a couple of years ago when he was with San Francisco against Green Bay, he had a game with 9 grabs for 184 yards and a touchdown. How'd you like to see that this week?
Absolutely.
All right, my pick for above the numbers, outside linebacker Azeez Ojulari. Now, he has been really hot. He's had at least part of a sack in 4 of 5 games this season, and he is tied for 3rd in the NFL with 3 forced fumbles. And oh yeah, by the way, Remember, he's missed a whole bunch of games this year because of a calf injury. Talk about productivity. He's been terrific.
Combine him with Kayvon Thibodeaux and his emergence in the last week. This is a nice tandem that we're talking about that the Giants needed for a long time.
And, of course, Minnesota's got O'Neal playing at right tackle. He's allowed 4 sacks this year, so maybe Ojulari can take advantage of him. All right, we're going to go below the numbers now, and we're looking at wide receiver Adam Thielen for the Minnesota Vikings. Now, he has caught a touchdown pass in 3 of his last 4 games. 5 times this year, Jonathan, he's had at least 6 receptions in a game. He has been a very, very good intermediate to short-range receiver because everybody knows they've got Jefferson to go deep.
He's not been Batman. They have a Batman now in Justin Jefferson, but he has succeeded in this Robin role. Look, this guy had 14 touchdowns in 2020. Like you said, he's a Pro Bowl type of guy. We don't need him killing us on the backside of plays because we know Justin Jefferson, it's going to be very hard to take him down and take his numbers down, but we need Adam Thielen to play below the numbers this week for sure to get the win.
And holy sticky hands, Cape Crusader. This guy has only had 1 drop in each of the last 2 seasons. That would make 2 drops in 133 catches. He really knows how to hold on to the ball. Well, that'll do it for Above the Numbers this week. Let's go back to Bob.
Carl, you know, Adam Thielen got mad at the coaching staff in that game against the Indianapolis Colts because they weren't giving him the ball, and then he makes a key catch. And really, KJ Osborne is the guy that sparked that big comeback. So they go 3 deep when it comes to the wide receivers.
Yeah, listen, everyone's talking about Jefferson, but Adam Thielen has been a primetime player for them and a big-time wide receiver for many years. So you cannot forget him. You put all your focus on the talent like Jefferson, which he deserves, but you cannot forget Thielen because he can make big-time plays.
And Osborne certainly hurt the Indianapolis Colts with some really huge plays to jumpstart that offense. We're going to take a timeout. When we come back, Coach Daboll rejoins us to preview the Vikings here on the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Stop & Shop.
They're a good team. They're a good defense. They got a lot of key veteran players who've played a lot of football, who are smart.
And Deion Jackson. Oh, ball comes out. There go the Vikings. It's going to go all the way in. Chandon Sullivan.
We harp on a lot about it being December football. We know how much of a tough person and player you have to be to keep going near the end of the season like this.
Heineke back to throw, feels some pressure, gets hit, and ball comes loose and recovered by the Giants.
I don't think the approach changes, but we're certainly excited for the opportunity.
Welcome back to the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Stop & Shop. On Christmas Eve, the Giants take on the Vikings in Minnesota. So time to take a look at this football game. And Minnesota clinched the NFC North with that thrilling win last week against the Indianapolis Colts, the biggest comeback in NFL history, down 33-0 at the half. And, Coach, they got explosive weapons on the offensive side of the ball, and it starts with their talented wide receiver in Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, he's the best in the league. He's dynamic, can threaten all levels of the playing field. Excellent hands, balance, body control, good route runner. And you know he's getting the ball, and it's tough to stop him. That's why he's as productive as he's been. And on the other side, Thielen, and you got Cook in the backfield. Hawkinson now. Cousins does a great job of leading, that group, and they're a challenging group to defend.
Coach, talk a little bit about the quarterback, because Kirk Cousins is the guy who just seems to be resilient. He's never out of a game, and you can knock him around a bit, and he just keeps bouncing back and looking to make plays for his team.
Yeah, and I don't know Kirk, but I have a lot of respect for his game. I think resilient is a great word for him, and strong leader, gets the ball into the playmaker's hands, and has won a lot of games. So I got a lot of respect for him and how he plays the position.
Coach, Dalvin Cook has been an outstanding back in this league for a long time, but as we saw on the game-tying touchdown, it was just a little short pass, and he goes 64 yards. He's a dual threat that can hurt you either way.
Yeah, and a threat to take it the distance anytime he touches the ball. So getting 11 hats to the ball, making sure we're tackling, he's going to make some plays just like all their skill guys are, but we're going to have to do a good job of eliminating the big plays and making them line up and play again.
You go to the defensive side of the ball, and Zadarius Smith kind of anchors that front part of their defense, and then you have a longtime Pro Bowler, Harrison Smith, on the back end, and a lot of good players in between.
Yeah, the Smith brothers, they're one's hard to block, and the other one's really good in the back end. And he's done a good job of either making tackles in space, defending the deep part of the field, can get the ball out whether he's tackling or from the quarterback when he's trying to look guys off. Two really talented players, and we're gonna have to be at our best.
Coach, the other thing that's interesting is this is going to be a matchup of the two teams that have the most one-possession wins. Minnesota has the most, you're second most. So there's a similarity in that respect between the two teams. Talk a little bit about being able to deal with the pressure and have your team be able to deal with the pressure and win these tight games.
Yeah, I think, each coach probably talks to his team a little bit differently. I know for us, it's just play the next play. It's a long game. Don't get too down when it's, early on it's not where you want it to be, and don't get too up. You got to continue to, set the standard that you want to play at, focus on the next play, whether that's defensively, you're focusing on if you've got a big play against you, moving on to the next play and trying to get a stop down in the red zone. Offensively, a negative play, moving on to the next play, and, just keeping the right attitude, a kind of fight for 60-minute attitude.
The last thing, Coach, is I think their crowd is underrated in Minnesota. They impact games as much as any of the best crowds in football, and they don't get a lot of credit for that. So that's another area that you really got to focus and make sure your guys are focused.
No
right?
doubt, and we're going to have to prepare for that this week. I've been to that place, a couple years back when I was in Buffalo, and it was very, very loud. One of the loudest stadiums that I've been in for a while, and they got a great fan base there. They're winning. Just won their division, so there's a lot to cheer about there in Minnesota.
And Coach, too, my final question, short week, but when you're in the position that you're in the playoff hunt, it doesn't really matter, does it?
No, but this is why you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is why you do it. So lack of sleep or poor eating habits, all that stuff is secondary to trying to do everything you do to try to get a win.
It's the most wonderful time of the year. Coach, we appreciate a couple minutes. Merry Christmas to you and your family.
Same to you.
And best of luck on Saturday against the Vikings.
Thanks.
The Giants and Vikings game is presented by Prism Trading Cards, one of Panini America's most popular NFL trading brands. Make sure you watch Giants post-game live right after the Giants and the Minnesota Vikings. It's sponsored by NFL All Day. So for Carl Banks, Coach Daboll, and our entire crew, I'm Bob Papa. Thanks for joining us for this edition of the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Stop & Shop.